Fallout 4 has a lot of odd fan theories, things ranging from absolutely horrifying to just really weird and out there. Well, with Halloween approaching, today I wanted to share with you 3 fan theories that I found particularly disturbing. These are things that aren't just kind of scary at face value, but even as you begin to think about them or even do your next playthrough with them in mind, you'll start to realize how scary these implications are. So naturally, the Institute is the center of a number of these fan theories. It kind of just makes sense. They're this weird, spooky organization that you only meet a little bit into the game. After meeting them, you actually discover that they've been spying on you, some through the traditional methods like placing synths or replacing certain leaders with synths. But as you do explore the Institute, you discover that they actually have the capabilities to create synths out of things that aren't just kind of humanoids or robotic. They have gorillas, and that kind of opens up the prospect as to how many other animals do they have. And it really makes you question as to what extent this spying was going on. Well, as you do explore through the Institute, you'll actually find a bunch of kind of CCTV cameras of different locations all over the Commonwealth. Upon closer inspection, you actually start to realize that these are taken from a bird's eye view. What birds are there all over the Commonwealth? Well, none other than crows. So it actually seems like the Institute did create crows to spy all over the Commonwealth. Now think back, how many times have you seen crows? This is actually mentioned by Ronnie Shaw at the end of her quest, but never really touched on again.
Hey.
Lad, you made it in time, General. I guess we're about to find out if these new Minutemen really have what it takes. We've seen a lot of those Institute crow things sniffing around. Looks like they're getting ready to try to take us out.
As you do some of the major quests throughout the rest of the game, you'll actually notice an abundance of crows for certain ones. Take for example Paladin Dance's quest, where you have to go with him to ArcJet Systems. It's one of the first quests you do with him, and really just one of the first quests you do with the Brotherhood. Spoilers, but if you don't know it at this point, Paladin Dance is actually a synth, so it makes a lot of sense for these crows to be there. Even further, one terminal in the Institute actually does say what to create. We've engineered creatures that inhabit the sky and the land. The next logical step is a creature of the sea. This is kind of them talking about their phase 2 development. You may have noticed from that terminal they actually mentioned creatures, not just one creature. One of the other suspected spies for the Institute are mannequins. These are oddly placed all over the map, both in interiors as well as some found among the exteriors. It honestly just doesn't make a ton of sense for that many mannequins to be there. But although that's odd, there's actually some evidence for this also. Throughout the game, you'll actually find certain synths hiding among the mannequins. Is this a misprogram? Are they trying to just blend in, or are they actually hiding among a bunch of their friends where they'll know they're relatively safe? And then even beyond all that, there's actually a sunken ship that you do encounter in Far Harbor. Talking to the captain, you find out that he heard a bunch of noises in the kind of hull or under part of the ship. You later discover that all that was really in there were a bunch of mannequins. This is pretty disturbing. It basically means that almost everywhere in the Commonwealth is being watched by the Institute, and some of this isn't even revealed to you as you do approach it. It definitely seems like through the CCTV you do find in the Institute kind of on public display in a private area, and through the dialogue with Ronnie Shaw, that people tend to know that the birds are Institute spies, or at least it's a rumor. The mannequins are talked about nowhere. Maybe that's something they're playing a little bit closer to themselves and even spying on their own. Even beyond all this, there's a bunch of other theories about what else is an Institute spy, the most notable being dog meat. I mean, does it really make sense for this random dog to run up to you to make the perfect companion and to be able to survive for so long in the Commonwealth? I don't know. I mean, it's definitely food for thought, but it definitely does create an interesting dynamic there. Then we do have the idea that Kasumi is actually a totally normal girl. If you play through Far Harbor, you'll know this because it is the intro quest, but basically Kasumi is a young girl that abandons her parents and her family to go escape to Acadia in Far Harbor because she does believe she is a synth. She had these visions and she's like a tinkerer. There's actually a lot of evidence that she isn't a synth, but most of this is hidden behind certain dialogues and you have to make certain choices to actually get these outcomes. Plus the game never totally confirms it. It always leaves it open-ended, but again, it really points to this is just a normal human that is kind of crazy and abandon her whole family. If you choose to wipe out Acadia, you actually kill everyone inside. On each body, you'll find a synth component. The only body without one, Kasumi. Now, this totally could just be an oversight by Bethesda, but I really doubt that. Even beyond that, if you actually choose to side with the Institute, you could ask one of the engineers there if they know anything about a girl named Kasumi.
There's still the issue of this girl, Kasumi. She thinks she's a synth.
I can tell you that she's not one of ours. I mean, if she's a synth, obviously she belongs to the Institute, but I have no record of an asset deployed with that identity. I suppose it's possible that someone else meddled with Institute property. Certainly wouldn't be the first time. I'm sorry, I can't tell you more.
They basically say it's not one of theirs, although some tinkering could have gone on, so she definitely could be a synth, but they know nothing about her. And then finally, you can also ask some people at the railroad.
There's a girl named Kasumi Nakano. She disappeared up north. Sounds like she heard the same stories. and thinks she's a synth.
The name doesn't ring a bell. If she is a synth, doesn't sound like we ever helped her. But I guess those stories really are getting around, huh?
They'll say basically the same thing. They've never helped anyone in Far Harbor, so it's definitely not one of theirs either. So maybe at face value, that's not that bad, but when you actually think about it, this is basically a young girl who is brainwashed to abandon her family, and depending on what ending you actually go with, she will be murdered by you or one of your companions for those false beliefs. This is going to be one of the few instances in Fallout 4 where you're actually able to kill a child without any other mods installed. And even some of the other endings result in her being kicked out of her household because she so strongly believes she's a synth and her parents are so against that. It's really a sad story more than anything else, and maybe not horrifying in the traditional way. When you think about what her life has become or the life she walked away from, it is pretty depressing. This is without a doubt going to have the most wide-reaching impact. This is going to be the fact that a new plague may be coming to the Commonwealth. So if you do take MacReady as a follower and eventually get his follower quest, you'll discover his son is sick, with symptoms described as, one day he's playing in the fields out behind our farm, the next he took a fever and these blue boils popped up all over his body. He also talks about how he met one other person named Sinclair whose partner had very similar symptoms to this. This actually describes the new plague. This is a biological weapon created and kind of introduced in some of the older Fallout games. It was released into a mountain region, so the devastation was kept to a minimum, and West Tech was recruited to actually create a cure for this. They made something called Pana Immunity. This project later turned into the FEV, which if you don't know actually created a bunch of the super mutants. This all occurred before the Great War, so it's implied that this disease has long been dead. The actual quest in Fallout 4 takes you to the MedTech research facility. It's not really clear if there's a link between West Tech and MedTech, but there definitely is some plausibility there and a few theories in that own right. While there, you actually discover they too have created a cure, this one called Prevent. But there is in fact only one cure there, and you use that single vial on his son, saving his life, but at the same time, what about all these other people that might have it? An even further idea kind of backing up this theory is MacReady is known to be around Vault 87, while he did spend some time in the Capital Wasteland. As many of you guys do know, Vault 87 is where the FEV research was conducted, that same cure that was meant to be for the new plague and then turned into some super mutants and all that. So again, the implications of this are massive. That means a new plague could come over the Commonwealth, and the last cure was just used on a small boy. There are obvious ways to reverse engineer this. Obviously, if you take Curie, she's been making vials and vaccines for a very long time, so she would be a great candidate to help save the Commonwealth. But if you look throughout history, when new plagues do pop up, it's not like it's instantly going to be cured. It seems like this is already spreading, as by the account of Sinclair, and this would result in a lot of death and devastation to already devastated land, that being the Commonwealth. But it kind of makes siding with the Institute feel a little bit better. So that's pretty much going to wrap it up for this video. Again, these are just 3 fan theories. They all might be totally false. I think Kasumi definitely has the kind of most credit there. It probably is true and intended to be true from the game, but it is still left open-ended. As always, again, thank you guys for watching. I do hope you enjoyed this one. We're kind of continuing our Halloween specials here. And yeah, I hope to see you guys all next time. Later.